Good evening. You're listening live to the Xtreme Movie Show. I'm your host, Rob. I have with me tonight Dalton, the Authenticator, Professor Pixel, and the real RDV, the real Dr. Venkman, all on satellite feed coming into the Pine Hills Palace here just west of Orlando, Florida. Tonight, we are the boys on Buffy. It's an interesting night, gentlemen, because coming off the fresh of the 4th of July, sat down, watched a little bit of Buffy, Season 1, Episodes 11 and 12, the final two of the first season of a TV show we had talked about doing for quite some time, and having gone through all the previous episodes, it's kind of interesting to put a cap on season 1 and see where we're at. I think Buffy the Vampire Slayer so far has shown itself to be a somewhat campy show that's trying to find its sea legs, so to speak, TV show legs. And I think it's been hit or miss, but I think the first few episodes, as we've talked about in general, were somewhat weak. But then the middle of it, I thought was very solid. You got Monster of the Week. You've got some plot stuff going on. However, for me, for my initial thoughts as we go around the horn is I think that season 1 here, I still think we don't really know 100% what to expect with Buffy going forward. And I think 11 and 12 was just kind of, hey, let's hurry up and finish and get done with it type of episodes. They felt rushed to me. They felt like they tried piling a bunch of stuff. One thing I did appreciate the fact was they actually included hot computer chick, a teacher that will eventually have the hots for Giles, so I think. And then I also like the fact that they had Cordelia in here a little bit, which I'm going to really talk about. They actually revisited every character I think of in here. I will say, spoiler alert, I'm a bit downtrodden because of the Master and the not-so-epic finale. So let's go around the horn. Dalton, I'll go to you first. What are your initial thoughts on these last 2 episodes of season 1 of Buffy?
Okay, here's the thing. And here we definitely see that this season really could have benefited from having the 22 episode runs that all the other seasons had. The problem is they got so bogged down in admittedly more interesting standalone episodes that they forgot they had a main plot. And then at the very last second, it was like, oh shit, we have a main plot, don't we? Throw something together. I know we need 5 more episodes to do this properly, but we have an episode limit, goddammit. So, derp.
It's like a Buffy sandwich. But Pixel, what about you?
I have to agree with what Dalton was saying. If it had had 22 episodes, I think they might have been able to actually formulate where the plot should go instead of just kind of throwing it together at the end.
Oh shit, we have a main plot. Somebody throw something together quickly. Oh no.
Exactly. These 2 episodes are by far the weakest of the season. I even think the pilot is better than episode 11, personally.
I agree. I agree totally.
I think of this season right now as a pilot of its own. So they gave 12 episodes to Joss Whedon, basically, and he threw together what we have now. And while we had the problems at the beginning and the end, I feel overall it was worth it. And that's why it went on for as long as it did.
Yeah, I think there's definitely some meat and potatoes in here. Sometimes that gets missed a little bit because we focus on the bad sometimes. And I will agree with you. I think overall for 12 episodes, the good has outweighed the bad. Some of the bad, though, is super cringy. But let's bring it on over to RDV. RDV, what do you got to say about 11 and 12?
11 and 12, I actually had no problems with them.
Okay.
Like I said, we had the puppet episode earlier than this, which was even worse.
True.
I mean, I enjoyed the pilots. I mean, yeah, you don't like because it goes Master. That's because that's Brian Thompson, or whatever his name is. He's just a horrible actor. But as far as this, yes, I love the fact that the season finale you get Xander teaming up with Angel, and you get the jokes, with them. 2 unlikely people joined forces. The guy who hates them, and the guy who's just like, thinks these other guys an idiot, As far as the whole Buffy lore, I mean, this whole season is you gotta keep in mind this is like 1997, so you're not gonna get great ideas. It's not gonna be super awesome because every show in the freaking 90s and 80s was really hokey. even the 70s. But I'll give you this as far as, yes, it could have went for a little longer season. No, I think the season finale should have been 2 hours.
Mm-hmm.
They could have done more of that. So it was a little bit rushed, but I don't know. I am overjoyed. I enjoyed this. I mean, episode 11 to me it was no different than episode episode 3 with the witch. It's basically another way to teach you, as far as morals, as far as hey, we shouldn't bully people, or no, actually not season 3, not the witch one. It was the one after that, the one with the guy who likes the thrill seeker guy.
Yes.
Episode 11 was basically a morality episode. Hey, maybe we shouldn't ignore people. But it also gives you another thing of I guess what into the Hellmouth lore stuff, as far as things can happen. The girl turned invisible because people ignored her. Because the magic is going from the Hellmouth. It wasn't because she took a pill. She took a spell or something. No, it's just that's how it is. Like they even said, like there were was it episode 12? They're saying like there was a kid, baby born with his eyes inside. There was snakes. Can't give birth to litter snakes. It's I love the fact that they keep the monster stuff in there as far as but yes, it's gonna be hokey. If you expected this show not to be hokey, I don't know what you're thinking, because this is it's a CW. It's early. It's a WB. WB, yes. No matter what, if it's CW or WB, it's still gonna be campy. It's just that it's not woke.
I almost would argue that point. I wouldn't say it's woke. I'd say it's certainly feminist, because all the guys in here are completely inept, and it's really painful to watch Xander. Because I will say this, I agree with you with what you're saying. I have zero issues with them, no matter if they package it with an invisible spirit, like in this episode, or anything else monster-wise, and it's a moral tale. I think that's absolutely fine to kind of wrap it up in camp, whether it's horror, science fiction. I think it totally works.
I wouldn't call it feminist, because the whole show is called Buffy the Vampire Slayer. If she wasn't the main focus of it, then it wouldn't be called Buffy then.
Well,
so it has to be that way.
I would argue that, because Joss Whedon has always been a diehard male feminist. I will say, though, I don't think Xander is supposed to be like synonymous with all men or all like male humans or whatever the fuck. I think it's just that Xander himself happens to be an idiot. And speaking as a longtime Buffy fan, yes, Xander is an idiot, and you want him to go in the corner most of the time, but he's the kind of idiot that you almost love his idiocy. Like, yes, he's gonna screw something up and probably doom us all in the process, but it's Xander. You can't really hold it against him. If the Buffy gang is supposed to be synonymous with the Scooby gang, then Xander is definitely Shaggy.
Yeah, and that's how I look at it.
Yeah, I don't disagree with all that. Well, I think one of the things that it's frustrating for me watching and not knowing, season 2 or really anything that happens going forward, and I know some of you guys do a little bit, is when I look at like Xander, I go, okay, he's a good-looking dude. He's not stupid. Yeah, he's can be awkward and this and that. He's hanging out with a bunch of women and stuff, other dude bros, and all that stuff. Okay, there's nothing wrong with that. That's actually kind of cool. But to see him, obviously he's got a thing for Buffy, and at one point, one of these episodes, he's, practicing. I think it's episode 12, which we'll get to. He's practicing on Willow, talking about it. Whereas Willow in these 2 episodes looked like she's still pining for him hard, where that kind of went away. And so it's just the point I'm trying to make at it is that it's very inconsistent, and that's what gets frustrating, because we're trying to figure out the basic of each part of each character, so we can watch, their good points, their bad points, their flaws, whatever we think they are, and really just how they change and grow as a person with what they've been through. And I think Xander has shown a lot of growth, which brings me to Cordelia. Obviously, Cordelia is stunning. She's gorgeous. She's a natural beauty. But I think, like, Xander really showed when he was kind of like heel Xander and a little pissy, in a previous episode or 2, that really, I really popped for that, because he showed, okay, this is kind of cool. He's not showing just complete dork side, whatever. And then Cordelia in these episodes here are like, okay, they haven't done much with her. They presented her enough where she's going to be something at some point, possibly. So they show that to her, and it's amazing because when she shows that she's not completely dumb or an airhead, she's not a ditzy blonde, that old thing, you go, okay, this could almost kind of work. And then, of course, at the last minute, when she goes to thank Buffy for something about it, her boy toy comes by, and she's like, oh, no, I wouldn't talk to these losers, when she was apologizing. I thought, hey, that's kind of cool to see that you're taking a character that's supposed to be super popular girl and all that snob, who I don't think's actually come across that way, maybe a little elitist, sure, but I like the idea that she's almost a part of the gang because she kind of knows what's going on a little bit. And of course, I thought, Doctor, you brought up a good point about how this being like a moral tale, because you got a girl in the classroom that everybody just ignored. They all signed a yearbook, don't even remember it. And I like how they throw in the little bit of like, well, everyone says have a great summer because you're trying to be polite. And I like the fact that they talk that out, because that's a real life sort of thing. That's where the show hits good on, when it has these kind of notes, but not when it flops and switches these kinds of things, like with Cordelia and the whole Willow Xander, not really romantic sort of triangle thing with Buffy.
Well, the last 4 episodes, Willow has had a crush on him.
Yes.
Yeah, so it's not like it just went away. It's been there. It's just they really hyped it up towards the end here, because they're getting towards the season finale, so they're gonna have it in there, because I guess it's gonna. I'm not can't remember exactly what happens in season 2, and Pixel no spoils since you're already on season 4. or something like that.
He's chewing these episodes.
But I imagine they're not gonna play it up, and then that's not gonna be an issue in season 2.
Well, okay. So if you look
no
at
spoilers.
No spoilers, bro.
I'm not spoiling. If you look at the production history of Buffy, they were mostly convinced because they greenlit this season before they had a chance to gauge the fan reaction, that this was going to be a one-off. So they tried their darndest to wrap everything up in the finale of season 1, so that if they got the axe and couldn't make a season 2, it would wrap everything up nicely, which is also why Buffy, quote unquote, dies for a little bit there.
And I love that, because even the comics they kind of touched on it too. There's a reason why that happens. You're gonna find out later in the show why they did that. There's a purpose for everything they do in this show. Sometimes it seems like it's like, oh, that was dumb. That's not gonna have no fruit. No, but some things they actually do, you're gonna find out.
Almost nothing is a one-off in Buffy, which is good writing on Joss Whedon's part, that he can take something that could otherwise be a one-off and bring it back.
Well, the 2 FBI agents who ultimately end up taking away this invisible spirit here at the end, they were like the worst duo I think I've ever seen on screen. I mean, and I was like, okay. It just, sometimes what happens is, because Buffy, the show itself, it's very dialogue driven to me, even though there's action, and I appreciate having a lot of volume of this kind of stuff thrown in there. So sometimes the transitions from one particular tone to another, I'm like, oh, this is really rough. And that's where it stands out with me. So to me, what's that?
I was gonna say they remind me of Agent Johnson and Agent Johnson from Die Hard.
Well, I guess
Scully and Mulder. I mean, for God's sakes, that's what it seemed like. Well, let's talk a little bit actually about episode 12. And Pixel, I'm going to call on you for this one here to kind of go over it first there too. Obviously, this is, Prophecy Girl. This is the grand finale. This is supposed to bring everything together. One of the things that comes out to mind for me first is the fact that just how ripe she looks in this episode with her dress and everything. I don't know, but what did you think of episode 12, the finale, Pixel?
Well, like I said before, it is definitely one of the weaker episodes of the season. I don't hate it. I didn't like it, but I don't hate it.
Right.
And it's not because it's hokey. I've watched all these episodes. I can tell you it's all hokey. But what it holds in it just doesn't feel like it has any weight.
In this episode, it can't catch, basically.
Yeah. In this episode, we literally see Buffy die. She's brought back, of course. You can't continue on without the title character of the show. But it still didn't hold anything. It didn't hold any weight. And at the end, honestly, when when Buffy says, "We just saved the world. Let's go party," she sounds so tired because that's what watching that episode was like. It was tiresome.
Oh, I mean,
Let's
like
move
that
on.
line, though.
she did just like pretty much almost drown, so she's gonna be out of breath.
No, she did drown.
Yeah,
She did drown.
but but I mean, drown in the sense is that you don't come back from it.
Oh yeah, but I guess for a villain like the Master, I guess it was a proper ending for him. He didn't have a lot to him.
No, and that's what's disappointing. He's this overarching bad dude, except for the little ugly kid that he's raising to or trying to be a mentor for.
Oh, that's
and he goes out like a punk.
I've been saying since I think episode 1 that the Master is to the Buffyverse what the Putties are to the Mighty Morphin Power Rangers. They're the disposable villain that is an inconvenience for like the first 5 minutes while we're getting the hang of our powers, but will be reduced to nothing as soon as we know what the fuck we're doing. And as in so doing, that's exactly what we get. We get, you are the worst, lamest villain ever, because he is basically he's basically we need an overarching antagonist for reasons. So this guy, just give him a decent enough backstory, and hopefully that will fill in the void.
Also, this is a PG-13 show. It's on regular TV. It's not on cable, so you're not going to see him like ripping people's spines out of their backs. It's
of course. That being said, that doesn't stop later seasons of Buffy from having more interesting villains than this. So don't give me it's PG-13. It can't have an interesting villain thing because every other villain of the series would like a word with you if that's the case.
Remember, this is early 90s. There were a lot of people who were uptight. You're uptight viewers, so as far as they were, they didn't want the parents were not going to allow their kids to watch this stuff.
But that's not an excuse to cock. I mean, one of the things
it's not Tractor 3000, bro.
one of the things we like about Buffy, at least later on, the fan base, is that it did for the most part counter those taboos and say F you to the moral Puritans and the Helen Lovejoys of the world. But we're not there yet, but for those that are concerned that it's going to continue cucking, it's not going to.
I'll just say this show is nothing like Ash vs. Evil Dead.
I know.
Well, honestly, I don't think
the
that.
gore.
I think Ash would fit perfectly in the Buffyverse. Actually, if Xander ever got his shit together, I honestly think he would probably end up something.
Because he looks like a young Bruce Campbell.
He does. He really does. And he acts a lot like Ash did at first before he owned up to himself and became a badass. So yeah.
Well, let me bring up one particular scene that I thought kind of exemplifies what the show does well. And I mentioned before that it's tough sometimes being female-centric to present, all points of view and then switching back and forth, while challenging when it's done right comes across the way. And I mentioned that with Cordelia, they showed you a side of her where she's not, like I said, stupid and seems sort of genuine, but she's, of course, interested in keeping up her persona, with the in crowd rather than the Buffy group, at least to this point. But I think the best scene, honestly, I think this was at the beginning of episode 12, is when Xander's getting all hyped up to want to ask Buffy out to the dance. And he's practicing on Willow or whatever, talking. And, of course, Willow's taking it and getting all dreamy-eyed and stuff like that. But there was something about the way he was talking as a character where I thought, okay, this is the kind of Xander that, we've seen a few times, that when he's in this mode, he's great. Because I think the point that was brought up earlier about him and Angel kind of getting together and them cracking jokes with each other, and Angel I already just don't like. I don't hate him, but he's just mopey and dopey, and of course we know he's a little bit.
He gets better.
I hope so, because when he sits there, it has that horrible dialogue of like, "You love her," and it's like, You do too, and I'm like, oh yeah, these guys actually have some good chemistry together. The way they talk, Stop staring at my neck. I mean, if they just let that sit for a minute and then put that joke in later, that'd been great. That's what I mean by the timing of it. Go ahead, Doctor.
Well, I'll just say, I love the humor. Xander's always been the humor. He's gonna be the doofus.
Wise ass. Yeah.
He's gonna be one of the Three Stooges. That's what he is. He's the comic relief. He makes awkward jokes. It's like, okay, he's the weird kid. I'll agree with you on Angel. Angel in the first season, they didn't really know what to do with him. And as far as explaining why he can't be with her, they should have said it instead of waiting to season 2. Because that really pissed me off. Because I was like, you wasted a whole entire season. Because I thought in the first season they revealed why he doesn't want to be around her. It's not because I was just saying, because most people are like, oh yeah, well he's a vampire and you can't be together because blah blah blah. I'm thinking, dude, just don't drag it out. And I could see some fans maybe back then dropping off of this, but then at the time, I'm curious. I can't remember what shows were even on TV at the time. I know X-Files was maybe on to mid 90s. I don't know if it was on the late 90s, but
early 2000s. I thought
was it?
It had started. It was super hot at this point. I think that's what those two agents were supposed to be like.
X-Files and Buffy happened right around the same time. Yeah. I think X-Files might have been a little bit earlier, but it also continued longer. So.
I don't want to spoil, but I mean, it's like once you get to watch season 2 and you find a little more about Angel, it's like, why wasn't that in season 1?
They honestly really should have just used the main overarching plot for season 2 in season 1 and spoiler alert, made Angel's alternate personality Angelus the villain of season 1. It would have helped things considerably, I think.
Well, overall, I think that when you're talking about what we liked and didn't like for these 2 episodes, and in a moment I want to go around the horn and just talk about this first season overall. I think in these episodes, in general, I actually don't mind as a viewer sometimes if there's what I would call unresolved threads in there, like not knowing what's going on with Angel. I don't necessarily mind all that, and I felt like they threw a lot of stuff together. Some of it may have initially worked, some may work later. There was a callback in here too earlier, I think, when Cordelia was saying something. Oh yeah, did I tell you the time that she almost beat me up in the bronze or whatever? I do like how there was little things like that where if you're really paying attention to the show, you're going, that's kind of cool. They just do it in one episode to say, see, I really did say that. So I do think that having some unresolved things, while it may be frustrating, me as a viewer, like I say, watching it, doesn't necessarily upset me. So let's go around the horn here and just overall for season 1 in general with Buffy, what are the main highlights that you guys liked about it? Obviously I would assume that we'd all recommend it, but what, as of watching season 1, would you hope that they kind of do in season 2? Let me go ahead and start with you, Doctor.
As far as season 2, well, they're probably gonna introduce more characters. Miss Calendar, you see here in the season finale, she knows what's going to happen. She knows all about the prophecy of the Slayer and all that stuff. She knew some stuff, but she didn't know the full extent. So now she's part of the group. Cordelia is now part of the group. So obviously we're going to see more interaction between Xander and Cordelia, and that's going to make some interesting because he's already been rejected by Buffy. Now is he gonna? And he doesn't like Willow in that sense. So I mean, what's going to happen now? Is he gonna go after Cordelia, or are they just going to be bicker like brother and sister the whole entire time? Because there's so many tropes you can get out of this whole entire thing, the show. But like I said, I remember some stuff from season 2, but there's a lot of stuff I don't remember. I'm hoping that they get their crap together, as far as, but also I'm not gonna poo-poo the show because hey, this might be a little stupid. You know what? It gives me a little chuckle every once in a while because I don't like to take these as serious. These aren't really really elaborate stuff. They're not Scorsese films. They're not The Godfather.
So Frankenstein Chronicles, absolutely.
As far as the monsters of the week, I don't mind that. I want to see more stuff. We've seen the vampires, we've seen witches. We haven't seen werewolves yet. Or we've seen some demon stuff. What else are they gonna throw into us? Because there's only so much supernatural lore. Are we gonna see Bigfoot?
Right. Bigfoot. Well, it sounds like you liked it overall. Is that safe to say? And you would recommend somebody if they haven't seen it?
I would recommend this. like I said, but I recommend that you at least have an open mind because there's so many kids today are like 16-year-olds are like, oh, this is so stupid. I don't want to watch this. They're like, I'd rather watch what's out now. It's like, dude, like I said, if you ignore your history, you're doomed to like the same things that you poo-pooed on because
I also defy anyone to tell me in all seriousness that Riverdale is even remotely equivalent to Buffy.
How dare you bring up that show
I
here?
defy any Zoomer smartass to tell me that. You are absolute twits if you genuinely would put them on par with each other.
We look at, like I said, a lot of these shows they copy the past shows, so you're basically getting the same characters but different names and almost the same plots.
That show is a disgrace to Archie Comics. How dare you bring it up here? You do not bring that into my home.
Gentlemen, let's not make fun of Riverdale fans, please.
Chilling Adventures of Sabrina is okay. If they did that more on Riverdale, I wouldn't mind it as much.
Well, Dalton, you're halfway through. I mean, overall for season 1, what are the highlights for you?
Obviously, being as I have a philosophical occultist background, I like whenever magic comes up, and The Witch is unsurprisingly probably my favorite episode so far. It's sort of surreal as a longtime Buffy fan coming back to the early season because there's so much character development coming down the pike. There's so much badassery from so many different characters coming down the pike, and it's a little anticlimactic and annoying to see in particular Willow, who's probably my second favorite character after Giles, be such a self-defeating wallflower. So I'm looking forward to the parts of Buffy where they sort of embrace who they are more instead of riding Buffy's coattails, because as I said in the pilot episode of this, Buffy, unfortunately for her, is the least interesting part of her universe. In the same way that in Mike Mignola comics, Hellboy is the least interesting part of the Hellboy universe. And I'm glad that she exists, because without her, we wouldn't have an in on the rest of the characters. But honestly, Buffy, go sit down and wait for the interesting characters to get character development, then come back.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of merit to that, because I think everybody watching any show that has a lot of characters and lots of stuff going on, you're going to gravitate towards one or two. But then when they go through some change, whether you think it's positive or negative, you may feel about them differently, then latch onto another one. So it gives you an opportunity, say in seasons 3 or 4, to latch on to something else. And like I say, I kind of like the same characters you did. I just was hoping for a bit more out of Willow, I guess, from the way she started. But I have the season 2 perhaps to maybe wonder if that's going to happen. So I think that's a really good point there too. So this brings us around the corner for Pixel's final thoughts about the season 1 overall. I know you're a fan of it. I know you're binge watching these like mad. You're on the season 4 already, so I know you're trying to keep it in perspective. But overall, what were the greatest hits for you, as far as why somebody listening to us talking about it, should they go watch it or rewatch it in some cases?
I think that it truly holds something special. Like Venkman said, there are a lot of shows that take from Buffy as their main inspiration for how they design their seasons. While the first season isn't the best by any means, it's still worth watching, because it's truly setting up the characters that we will all grow to love. And at this point, some of us do love some of the characters. So I truly think that this show holds something special, where we're in an age where a lot of TV is just garbage.
Yeah, we're in a post-Buffy TV landscape now, I guess.
Do you think, Pixel, though, that with Buffy, just in general, that having 12 episodes only is good because that just whetted the appetite? Because I'm wondering if we went 22, if we might have gotten turned off.
No. Because I'm not going to spoil anything.
Okay.
I'm just saying that where we go from here is better. definitely gets better for us as viewers watching these characters.
Encouraging to hear, yeah. So yeah, I think overall, it's been an experience, I think, for the four of us total to get together, the boys on Buffy, and discuss the show, because I had never seen it. I know we had batted around a few different things to try out. Actually, Buffy's been somewhat garnered a positive reaction from people who listen to it, so I certainly appreciate that, and I'd like to obviously publicly thank the three of you guys for hopping on board and doing this. Be interesting to see what we choose to take a look at next as far as season 1 goes. I do think that we're going to come around the horn at some point here in the future and then go ahead and go into season 2 of Buffy. I think it's safe to say we all enjoyed it enough to give at least season 2 a look-see at it. And I will say this, as the most skeptical out of the three of us when it comes to this show and some of this teenage nonsense, despite some of my ramblings about how certain things come across, and I certainly am no Joss Whedon expert when it comes to his other stuff that you guys are, I will say that I agree with most of what everybody's saying here. I think, like Doctor's point, hey, they're enjoyable. It's kind of fun. It's kind of how it is. It's dead on. Pixel, I know that for some reason it's caught fire with you watching it again, and that there's something we said about rewatchability. And Dalton, I agree with you about how the show tries to put a lot of things together, and also just, isn't a bad template for things to go, despite some hit or miss things too. So, sometimes you give points for trying too much because, hey, I appreciate that a little bit, and I think some of us do too. So, yeah, and it's hard to do that. Keep that same campy tone. You have to be serious a little bit and break it up. It's not a running gag show. So, I agree, and I will say this as we close out here, that for everybody listening, I certainly appreciate it. I appreciate the fact that this show's popular enough where, despite people that know it better than I do, they're retweeting it, letting other people know about it. Here on the Xtreme Movie Show, that is awesome, and that's what it's all about. So, anybody listening that wants to cover something specific, send it in a comment, reply to me, send something back, or Ellington from My Life Comics, or any of the gentlemen involved here. You find us, of course, all on Twitter. Gentlemen, again, thanks for showing up. Thanks for giving me the opportunity to have an excuse to watch Buffy the Vampire Slayer season 1, and I'm looking forward to, in the future, with you group, doing the same thing for season 2. So thank you guys for joining. Thanks, everybody listening. As always, stay extreme. Good night.